Okay, now that we have gone through our exterior checks of the vent as well as our circuit checks, we're going to first demonstrate how to ventilate a standard adult patient. So making sure that we're in adult/pediatric mode, we have the correct circuit attached. Your first step is going to be to select the proper sex and height of your patient. So for this scenario, we'll just say our patient is a male and they are 71 inches tall. So you can see there that it gives your ideal body weight of 75 kilos as well as an 8 ml per kilo tidal volume. I'm also just going to change the FiO2 so we don't have any alarms. So moving on, the modes that we're going to select, SCMV Plus is going to be our primary adult ventilation mode. You can see it's one of the 3 options from the main screen. If we did want to select a different mode, we go into the modes tab where we have our different volume modes, our pressure modes, ASV, as well as our high flow and non-invasive. So for this scenario, we're going to go with SCMV. We have our sex and our height. So now we are going to go ahead and hit start ventilation. So once we begin ventilating the patient, in the demonstration of competency, I want you to be able to show me where we find all of the pertinent information like tidal volume, minute volume, leaks, anything like that. So the first place we're going to go is controls. And you can see in controls here we have other options of things we can change. But down here at the bottom we have our IE ratio and our time expiratory. Okay, so those are going to come into play in a little bit here. Next, we're going to move into monitoring. So in monitoring, we have 3 different tabs with some important information. So you can see here we have our exhaled tidal volume that we will want to use to reference to determine if we're giving enough volume or if we need to change our pressure limitations. Tab 3 is also important. That's going to give us our RC expiratory time. So you can see that right there, as well as our C-stat. So once we start ventilating our patient, per our protocols, we need to get a P-plat. So in order to get a P-plat, we're going to take that C-stat, which is 19.5, and we are going to divide our expiratory volume. So 463 divided by our C-stat of 19.6. And that gives me 23.6, and then I'm going to add our PEEP, which is 5, to give me a P-plat of 28.6. So that's how we get a P-plat. So just make sure you're familiar with how to go through that process. The next mandatory assessment we're going to do involves this RC expiratory. So we're going to take RC expiratory and we're going to multiply that number by 3. So I'm going to take 0.31 times 3. And that gives me 0.93. So that is the minimum expiratory time that we need to prevent breath stacking. So now we need to go back into our controls and see our expiratory time is 4 seconds. That's much greater than 0.93, so we have plenty of time for our patient to exhale. The next important thing we need to go over with SCMV Plus is pressure limitation. So as you can see here, our tidal volume is 600 mLs, but we're only delivering 459, or at least that's what the patient is exhaling. So if we feel like we need to give more volume, we need to increase the pressure limitation parameters of the monitor. So in order to do that, we are going to go into alarms. And here, this first bar on the left is our pressure. Remember, the vent will never give so your high pressure limit is 40, so it will never deliver a breath greater than 35. So it's always going to be 5 less than whatever this top number is. So you can see here that our pressures are about 32, 31, and we're not getting that 600 mLs that we're looking for. So since we took a P-plat and we know that it is not 30, we know we're safe to increase our pressure limit. So I'm going to go ahead and increase it by, we'll say 3. Now that I've increased my pressure limit, I'll allow the ventilator to adjust, deliver some more breaths. and then reassess my exhaled tidal volume to see if we're closer to the 600. If I wanted to continue going up with our pressure limitation to get closer and closer to that 600, I would need to keep running a P-plat to make sure that it is staying less than 30. So at 561, I'm pretty happy that that's pretty close to 600, so I'm going to go ahead and leave that. Other things that we're going to go over with the skills checkoff is just going through the DOPE acronym. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with that, but just remembering that we want to look for anything that's displaced as far as the ET tube or the vent circuit. Is there any obstructions like vomit, blood, secretions? Do we have a pneumo? So using our lung sounds and our P-plat and patient presentation. And then equipment, so is something wrong with the ventilator itself? And remembering that that ultimate troubleshooting step is to just resort back to the bag valve mask. Next, showing how to set up your end-tidal CO2 or inline neb. Remember that this blue piece right here is our flow sensor, and anything that we put in this circuit we want to put behind or on the ventilator side of this flow meter or flow sensor. So I know in the past we've put things on the patient side, but with the Hamilton and how it's using pressure to deliver its breaths, we want to make sure that we put everything on this side of that flow sensor. And that's pretty much everything as far as just your standard adult ventilated patient goes.